Hey guys, we are coming to you at Puro Umo in Glendale, California, where I'm talking to the one and only Lars Wikstrom about his amazing trip across America on a really unique setup. So check it out.
My name is Lars Wikstrom. I'm 46 years old. I was born in Sweden, moved to America when I was 3, lived in Solvang for almost all of my life till now, and I am an avid e-bike touring person. My mom passed in 2006, and there was so much stress with the house. It was a 5-bedroom, and I had almost every room rented out, and there's always issues with the house and this and that. So that's when I started thinking, wow, it'd just be so nice just to get away. But a trip to Hawaii or something like that wasn't going to work. That's when I'm like, you know what, slow bike touring is the way I'd like to see things, and that's how I started getting into the whole thing. So. The southern tier is the goal that I had to ride across the country. So I started, my first bike trip was just an overnight, and I rode from Sacramento, where I'm staying, down the one all the way to Glendale to my buddy Dan's house. So loved that trip so much. 600 miles, took about 2 weeks to do. That a month later, I had my buddies drop me off in Portland, Oregon. And then I did 950 miles from Portland out to Tillamook and then down the one all the way to San Francisco and back up. So after that, I knew I had what it took, and I knew the gear was going to work to do a really long trip. So I was ready for the southern tier at that point. So I had developed 2 years ago, developed diabetes. And I ended up doing my first tour. I rode about 50 miles to a campsite and then was riding back home the next day. Halfway through that ride the next day, my whole body got tingly and everything, and I basically collapsed on the side and waited there about an hour till I finally continued. So I checked my blood level, and normal is between 90 and 120, and I was 495. So 800 to 900, you go to the hospital. So doing research online, it turns out that with diabetes, you're not worried. You got to be worried about what you eat, but you've also got to be worried about burning too many sugars, because if it gets too low, your body releases excess sugars and you don't produce the insulin, and you overload. So at that point I decided I was going to get a motor for safety reasons, so that this would not happen again. In 2015, I fixed up my house and I sold it, and the goal then was to build the ultimate tour bike and get the best gear that I possibly could without, chinsing anything. So I spent a lot of time researching the frames that I wanted. So aluminum, not aluminum, 26er, C700C, all those things. So, and I wound up getting a Surly Ogre. So that was a solid steel frame, could be fixed, and I like the rolling characteristics of a mountain bike and the larger tires than the smaller ones. So everybody, when I was online reading about it, everybody's like, go with 26s for touring, because if leave the country and go to third world countries, 26 inches are much more common than other ones. So, but I wasn't going to leave the country, so yeah. So I ended up getting that, and the rims are from Norway, and so I really customized the heck out of it. Jones handlebars, so I just have it's like a cockpit now, more or less. Just handlebars there. So the motor that I got from High Powered Cycles in Chatsworth. The first battery I got was from them. The second battery I got was from a company in Sacramento or San Francisco. So the batteries are the motors are 2,000 watt. So and my total weight when I left, I weighed 265 pounds, and the bicycle weighed 225 pounds. So I was pushing almost 500 pounds. And there's no way I'm going to pedal up a 7% grade with all of that. So plus I had the extra wheel. So I almost bought a bob trailer, the standard trailer that everybody buys. And then I was about to click buy, and I saw an advertisement. I saw the extra wheel. So I went in and checked that out. I'm like, well, this is perfect, because you actually have an extra tire in case one of your other tires blows out. And that way you can use that tire and put all the rest of the gear on your bike until you get to the next bike shop and get it all fixed. So yeah, the batteries are, they're 52 volt. 15 amp hour, so it's equivalent to about 750 usable watts that you have. So the way we charge the batteries on the road is we have a couple of chargers that are made by Grin Technologies called satiator chargers. You can adjust them, put in whatever voltage and stuff, so you can customize the actual chargers. So We'd stop at a campsite at night, you know, state park, they all have electricity there, and we would charge the batteries. From dead to full, it would take about 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 40 minutes to completely top off a battery. So, and what we do is we ride during the day, and, you know, up and down the mountains, by lunchtime the batteries would be half dead. So we'd usually stop at like a McDonald's or something like that, or gas station. And we then plug in and we take our hour-long break for lunch, and that would almost, you know, top it off again. It would give us enough range to get to the campsite at night where we could fully charge them. And the great thing about the batteries, we had built a system that we could take the batteries and we can convert the 52 volts down to 12 volts and then plug in inverters and USB adapters so we can charge all our USB devices. So one of the things I want to do, I didn't want to be trapped in the middle of nowhere and have the batteries go dead and have to pedal that whole thing. So I purchased a 300 watt fold out solar panel, and a solar charger, but I couldn't place it anywhere on the bike, so I had to design in a 3D modeling program, Form Z, and then print that out and take that to a welding shop that ordered the aluminum and put it all together. And I was lucky. I nailed it the first time. It slid in and it fit perfect. And the hooks that were on the Arkle bags that I had, they're solid, you know, they're steel, and yeah. So I got those, ordered those hooks for it, drilled the holes precisely, and put that on and hung it, so from the front rack. And the whole thing weighs about 25 pounds. When dogs are chasing us, we're well motivated to. So the speed of the bikes with the 2,000 watt motors is they sell two kinds of motors. There's one that has more torque that we bought, and one that's designed for more speed. So we ended up getting the ones with more torque because that's what we needed. The whole setup of the bike, without me on it, all the touring gear, tent, everything came in at 225 pounds. If it's flat, straight, and pedaling, you got to pedal with it. So if pedaling, I could probably get around 50 miles. So on flat, good ground. So if you're not pedaling, because it's throttle based that I have, so maybe about 15 miles. So, and you'll pay the price. If you don't pedal with it, you'll pay the price at the end of the day. So you're going to have to do a lot of pedaling yourself. The average speed that we did going across, really it depended whether uphill, downhill, but I didn't want to use the motors as, you know, an excuse just to get across the country. So we're going to keep an average speed of about 12, 13 miles an hour. So, you know, when we got in a hurry, we pushed it up to 18, 19 miles an hour if we had to get someplace before a rainstorm or something like that was coming in. But yeah, that's about the average speed because we wanted to see it and we wanted to get as much, you know, exercise as possible. So, like I said, I left California weighing 265 pounds. I got to San Antonio, stepped on the scale, on a different scale from the one I weighed myself, and it was 248. So I had lost 17 pounds. So at that point, we're like, woohoo, we're losing tons of weight. This is awesome. So not knowing San Antonio is about where America then flattens out. From San Antonio to Florida, it's completely flat. So when we camped at night, we got candy and chips and stuff like that and binge watch movies on the laptop and everything. So got to Florida, drove back to San Antonio, stepped on the scale, I was 253. I'd gone up 5 pounds even though I'm riding the bike every single day. So pushing, you know, bicycling and sweating up the hills and down all through Western America there, that was great. But the rest of it was so flat, you know, that, yeah, we actually put on weight. So, and I'm sure I gained all my muscle going up and down those hills at first. So, yeah, but I got back to Sacramento, everything settled down, got up in the morning and weighed myself on that scale, which I weighed when I left, and I came in at 249.5. So I lost 15.5 pounds total on that trip. So, beginning of the ride, we used the assist a lot. So, but towards, you know, once you pass San Antonio, it's all flat. So we barely had the assist on at all. So unless we had to make any additional speed to get, you know, where we're going at time. The bike in the weather, you know, rain was one of the big issues because the first systems that I had built up were not good systems. So the throttles would always blow out. All throttles have little Hall sensors. And those Hall sensors, if they go above 5 volts, they'll break. So my trip down from Portland, Oregon down, I think I went through like 6 throttles. So every day is like when you start the day off, you're like, please don't blow, please don't blow, please don't blow. So, and by this time I told the guys, I'm like, I need a bulletproof system. And Grin Technologies had just released this small little controller that you plug the battery into, plug the throttle, the computer, everything into. It's called the Phase Runner. It was like $325, and I use a Cycle Analyst 3 computer. A great advancement into that. You plug the throttle that we use into the computer versus plugging it directly into the controller. So the computer now regulates how much electricity can come from or get to the throttle, so it won't blow the Hall sensor. So for 2 bikes all the way across country, we didn't blow through 1 throttle. So the gear performed perfectly. So yeah, the Phase Runner for the controller, the Crystal Light motor, and then the computer. I don't know that I could change the setup any better right now. So I've went through a couple iterations of it where like these are the problems, now I need to solve those, and I did. I mean, if it made it 3,100 plus miles without an issue with that. The one problem that I did have though was mechanical. And it was my fault. I was riding through Phoenix, going to mail some stuff, and a strap slipped and hit the front tire, and I went over the handlebars. And that bent the forks, so they had to be completely replaced. So we got the forks ordered, but because of the motor and the Magura disc brakes, there isn't enough spacing. The standard fork spacing is like 100 millimeters. It had to be stretched to 110 millimeters to fit all the stuff, which means I had to call all over Phoenix, and I finally found one bike shop that had a frame adjuster that could then stretch the forks out enough. So we were there a whole week dealing with that stuff. The reason I custom built my bike versus prefab is there was no prefab out there that I wanted. So it went from starting with like a touring bike that I wanted to a touring / bug out vehicle that I could just go into the forest and ride and recharge, and the only thing that would limit me would be food and the lack of Wi-Fi. So not many bikes, custom-built bikes or normal e-bikes have the motors in the front. I ended up putting mine in the front. Most of them in the rear, where you connect a cassette and then derailleur and chain and everything. But I didn't want to deal with any of the oiling and cleaning of the chain and replacing the chain and stuff like that. So I ended up putting a roll-off speed hub in the back, which is a 14-speed internal geared hub. So it is waterproof, it is solid. All you have to do is change the oil out every 3,000 miles. So, and my girlfriend who went with me, she went through 2 chains. Fresh chain in San Diego, replace it in San Antonio, and then the chain needed to be replaced again in St. Augustine. So I have 4,500 miles, give or take, so far in my belt drive. And if it makes any noise, you just wash it off every few hundred miles and you're good to go. So and that's the reason I went with the front hub. So, and that way, because we followed a couple people on an e-bike ride all the way up the coast, and they blew out their controller and they were stuck in the middle of nowhere, and they had to get a tow truck to come pick up the bikes and haul it to the town because they couldn't continue pedaling because they're off-the-shelf e-bikes, not custom built. So yeah, and everything on my bike I try to have serves 2 purposes. Batteries run the motors and also charge the gear at night, things like that. So that's the gray area when it comes to e-bikes, because there was a bike forum that I was on and I was talking about touring and the e-bike, and a lot of people just got negative about e-bikes right away, and they forced the actual administrator of that site to create a bicycle touring and an e-bike touring section, because so many people were offended that e-bikes. But I weigh 265 pounds, I'm pushing 50, I have diabetes, my knees ache after riding, so that e-bike, motor setup allows people that are struggling to be able to go the distance, to be able to do it. But with a zero, a motorcycle, gas-powered motorcycle, you have 100% assistance. There's no pedaling, no nothing. A bicycle is at 0. You put all in the effort all yourself. An e-bike is anywhere from 0 to 100. So you can choose not to use it and ride. But with a direct drive that you have on the front versus a mid-drive, there is resistance. So when you spin the wheel, it doesn't just sit there and spin, spin, spin. It'll do 2 or 3 rotations and then stop. So they said it's kind of like bicycling. If you're not using the battery, it's like bicycling against a 10-mile-an-hour wind is the resistance that you have. So yeah, giving just a little bit of throttle just offsets that. So Yeah, and the great thing about the computers with these bikes is they have a built-in cruise control. So if you hold the throttle in for anywhere from 2 to 6 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever you determine the length in the computer, it'll then lock in at that speed. And you can go up and down hills with the assistance, and it's locked in so you don't sit there with your thumb on the throttle the whole time. So the name of my bike, you'd have to ask the girlfriend that. So she thought I should call it Bertha because it was so big, but I decided on just call it Big Red because all of my panniers and everything were red. I don't do any social media except for Instagram. So I have an account that's called Cigars and Bike Touring, and underscores between all of those words. So, and I throw up some e-bike photos that I have there, cigar photos, and yeah. So if anybody has any questions, they can contact me there.